Hey guys, we're Belenja95, recording live from the local county prison cell. I'm gonna do another death battle analysis. Not a prediction video, not Johnny Cage Captain Falcon, already did that. But it's just gonna be another analysis video of a fight that hasn't happened. So this one is actually something that I came up with recently while I was thinking of what other ones to do, and I had some other ideas of what I want to do, so I'll just push them back for a little bit, and then I'm gonna do this one now. So this is Ainz Ooal from Overlord and Diablo from How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. Okay, these are basically two pretty much unstoppable RPG characters, right? That in their own game are more or less invincible. And with that being said, I want to say that these are RPG characters, but at least I won't be, and I don't think Death Battle would either. I won't be just applying it as if they were RPG characters, and just applying stats. I'm not going to compare their stats, right, and use that to determine. I can't say, oh well, his attack stat is 190 and his attack stat's only 170, so he's strong. I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to try to scale one game to another to try to find, a stat comparison. I'm going to do what I think Death Battle would do. Yes, take the fact that use these stats to determine their strength compared to something, right? In relativity to something, but treat their feats as if they were actual feats, and treat things as they appear, as opposed to treating them as just comparative stats. Like, if there's an attack that shoots fire, I'm going to say he can shoot fire. I'm not going to say he has an attack that does X number of damage and does that. It's an actual thing, right? Just because, again, I think it's a little stupid to do that. They would have done that with Lucario and Renamon if that were the case. He's an undead, and he has he is of the is it spellcasting type. He uses magic, right, as opposed to combat or assistance or being a rogue or something. Right, he uses magic. That's his class, right? So because of that, and I know I said I'd bring stats out of it, but this is relevant to his character. Let's not use the term stat, but his abilities are focused mainly into his proficiency and potency in wielding magic. Now, naturally, in his game, the maximum number of spells that a person is able to learn is 300 because of his skill. I believe it was called Dark Knowledge. He was able to use a live sacrifice to boost that number up to, it was 700, was it 718, I think? Upwards of 700, right? So more than doubled his maximum number of spells. So that's the number of spells he has at his disposal. He has not shown anywhere near that number, so I'm not going to theorize that, oh, he has a spell somewhere that can do this. No, we can only take into account what he has done. Aside from that, he is also just a brilliant tactical fighter, to where he has actually beaten people in classes that have equally powerful people in classes that have a major advantage against him, simply because he was able to, see how they fought, see what they were avoiding, see what they were doing and not doing, just, and come up with okay, well, this is the best, and, use from his vast arsenal of spells to determine what would the best thing to be. What's the best thing to use? So, that would create a cool little dynamic here of we've got an intellectual fighter versus, but it's hard to put that on paper. That's just his fighting style, I would say. Other than that, he is just a complete tank. The guy. So he has a minor healing factor against physical or combat-based damage, right? He even took a dagger and cut his face just to show that it would heal almost instantly, right? And so it would have to be an incredibly high level, physical attack or weapons based attack that would be able to damage him in order to like really leave any lasting marks. Um, Something comparable to his own magic wielding ability, but just in terms of physical damage, right? And so you think he's a physical tank, but then his defenses against magic are multiple times better. Like he's not only just got great resistance to magic, he's got complete immunity to instant death magic, which is great because that's in his upper. In this fight, I'll go into later, but in his upper tiers of magic wielding is instant death magic, and he's also able to just add to his defenses by creating shields and barriers and curses and charms and stuff that are able to weaken his opponent's magic potency or increase his own magic defenses. So of a lot of the spells that he uses that are in instant death magic, he's got things like Wish Upon a Star, which is basically a wish granting spell, which is kind of something that shouldn't be in a game or shouldn't be given to someone who can lose or ever loses. There's the goal of all life is death, which is essentially, again, as it sounds, just an instant death kind of thing. He's got a multitude of ways to instant kill, right? So pretty much he is invincible in his own game. The same can, however, be said about his opponent, Diablo, who is, also a demon lord, and in his game, he is the demon lord. Now, Diablo's magic potency is also well documented, but he also has a very high level of combat ability and weapons wielding ability, right? So he's pretty much capped in terms of magic power, I believe, but he was also able to pick up, martial arts and everything. He's learned several. I guess if we were applied to real life, he would have learned several different martial arts, learned 7 different martial arts that include weapons, things like that. But without question, his greatest ability isn't his magical offense, it's the King's Ring, which is an item that reflects, not reflects all magic used against him towards his enemy, which is kind of a broken item in an RPG, to be honest. But it just anytime any magic whatsoever is used against him, it just reflects back to the user, discriminately. Like, not it reflects in the same direction. It reflects back to them specifically. The only exception, the only thing he is weak against is pure elemental magic. Now, what that means is something that is technically magic in origin, however, other than that, maintains the qualities of the pure element that it's based around. So, if you have a dragon that's a magical creature, dragons can breathe fire. That's considered pure elemental magic. Because aside from the fact that it is coming from a magical creature, it's just fire. Or a spell that just creates fire. That would be considered pure elemental magic. Right? Or something that maintains the properties of what it is based off of. And the involvement of magic in it is minimal. Usually it's just in terms of its creation, not in terms of its existence, not in terms of what, of what it's composed of, right? So if it's a magical fire and it's got magic in it, and it's like, Greek fire or something. I know Greek fire is not actually magic, but you know what I'm saying. If it's a cursed fire or something, probably wouldn't count. But if it's just a fire that's created through magic that just only has the properties of fire, then it would be considered pure elemental magic. The ring can't... I believe the explanation was that the ring can't distinguish regular fire from a fire that's created from a spell, right? So that was the reason. It's not any element... No, there's a very harsh criteria for what constitutes pure elemental magic versus just a magic that uses elemental properties, right? So, and then other than that, like I said, he's got the high level combat, and now he's also got a lot of spells, but most of his spells, I believe, are just offense based. So the cap at this, I believe, the highest spell he has would be White Nova, if I'm not mistaken, which is basically just a nuke that just, took out like the entirety of the land of a moat that surrounded a castle and tore off the one girl's clothes. Yeah, it's just a tiny little ball of energy that hits the ground and then just nukes the entire area. So, who do I think is going to win in this fight? Put very bluntly, I do not think Diablo is capable of killing Ainz. It might sound, like it's an instant win for Diablo with the King's Ring being able to reflect any magic against a person who primarily works with magic, and the idea that, oh well, Ainz isn't able to, he's weak against combat, and Diablo, has high level combat skills, so shouldn't he, have the advantage there? Well, yes, but take into account that Diablo has beaten characters that have what I would consider to be, would be better in combat than Diablo, and has beaten them just through not only use of magic, but also the ability to, just outthink them, right? Shit, I forgot a bunch of stuff that that they can both do. Ainz can also do like summons and shit. There's a lot of stuff. I said he had 700 spells. Assume there's some shit I'm missing, okay? So, taking into consideration that, one is immune to magic and has a high combat ability, and the other, is almost strictly using magic, I think, entirely using magic, and is actually weaker to combat than he is to magic, that sounds like the guy with the, the ring and the sword would win. No. Because, again, Diablo has beaten opponents Ainz has beaten opponents better at combat than Diablo, and though, granted, they didn't have an immunity to magic, the fact that Ainz is more resistant to magic than he is to physical harm should mean that having his own magic bounce back at him wouldn't really do anything to him, especially if he's using instant death magic, which he himself is completely immune to. It has no effect on him. So, being able to, and having that vast a variety of spells at his disposal, including summons and transformations, which take transformations allow him to change class, which allow him to, become a combat style class, though his abilities aren't as strong as, his magic wielding ones when he does that. In order, he can become a lizard man or whatever, I believe, at one point, where he was able to, beat somebody who was better in combat than he was by using combat and magic at the same time, actually. And he's able to create summons and things that, can be combat-based if they would so choose to be. So, in that case, he does have ways to use offense. He does have ways to, attack Diablo. Also, if I'm not mistaken, I think, a handful of his spells that he's used would be constituted as purely elemental-based, right? At one point, as a lizard man, actually, he was able to cover his sword in ice, right? Which I would think would constitute as a purely elemental attack. The ice is it's being created through magic, but it is still ice. It still has the properties of ice. So he does have ways that he can hurt Diablo. Now, does that mean Diablo is helpless while he does that? No. Does that mean that it's likely or he has a lot of ways to kill Diablo? No. But do I think it's more likely than Diablo being able to kill Ainz? Absolutely. Like I said, Diablo's highest attack that I'm aware of is, White Nova, which did, which is a crazy powerful attack. Ainz's withstood probably a lot more powerful magical attacks than that. And, maybe there's some calculation somewhere that says, well, he was this level when he did it, and he's this level at this point in the show or manga, and therefore his White Nova would be this much more powerful. Okay, and if that's the case, then I'm wrong. But to my knowledge, White Nova should be his most powerful attack, and from what I've seen, I do not believe that it would kill Ainz. The other thing to take into consideration is that both of these characters do carry items to replenish their mana and their health. So you'd get a war of attrition at that point. However, Ainz, I don't believe, has ever really had an issue running out of mana. He has a healing factor from physical damage, so that's just, additional to that. And not only that, but Diablo's most powerful attack, the thing that would give him, the best shot at killing Ainz, I would say, pretty much eats up his entire mana gauge, so, he would have to refuel if he was able to, in order to use White Nova after using White Nova. Which, would cause, that would be the use of resources that Ainz wouldn't have to use. So, do I have an absolute reason of this is why this character would win, and, this is how? No, but I do believe that in this case where both characters are pretty much invulnerable, and there are, you're looking at very specific nitpicks of how one character could win against another, I would say that Ainz just has more ways to kill Diablo than Diablo has to kill Ainz, which I honestly don't know if there are any that Diablo could kill Ainz with. So, is there a high chance that Ainz would find a way to kill Diablo? Probably not. Is it more than the almost 0% chance than Diablo has it? Yeah. So I'm gonna give it to Ainz. This was a really kind of stupid fight to look at, and I usually don't like doing RPG characters against each other. But yeah, no, this is alright, I guess. Two badass characters though, so how can you complain? I'm kind of backed up on analysis videos, so I'm not gonna do them more frequently, but I'm gonna be, if somebody says, oh, do this one, if I decide to do it at all, I could honestly just say no. But if somebody says do this one and I want to do it, it might take a while. So, but anyway, yeah. So this is Verbal Engine 95.